He had fame, he had charm, and at one point he had millions. Burt Reynolds was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. People loved his smile, his confidence, and his unforgettable roles. But behind that success, there was a story many didn't fully understand. A story of money lost, painful decisions, and a shocking fall that turned a wealthy star into someone struggling before the end. What really happened to his fortune? At his peak, Burt Reynolds was not just famous, he was everywhere. In the 1970s and early 1980s, he was one of the highest-paid actors in the world. Movies like Smokey and the Bandit made him a household name. Studios trusted him, fans adored him, and the money kept coming in. He earned millions from films, endorsements, and television appearances. For years, he lived the life many people dream of: luxury homes, expensive cars, and a lifestyle filled with comfort and success. But here's where the story begins to change. Because sometimes earning millions is not enough to protect your future. And in the case of Burt Reynolds, the money that once seemed endless started to slip away in ways that were both shocking and deeply tragic. One of the biggest turning points came from the choices he made during his career. At the height of his fame, he turned down several major film roles. These were not small projects. Some of them became huge box office hits with other actors. At the time, he believed he was making the right decisions, but later he admitted those choices cost him millions. It's one of the hidden regrets that followed him for the rest of his life. Imagine being at the top of the world and unknowingly walking away from even greater success. But career decisions were only part of the problem. Behind the scenes, Burt Reynolds was also dealing with personal struggles that affected his finances. He went through a very public and expensive divorce from actress Loni Anderson. The legal battle was long, emotional, and costly. Divorce settlements in Hollywood can reach millions, and his situation was no different. What many people saw as celebrity drama was in reality a major financial blow that changed his life. Then came something even more serious: his spending habits. Like many stars of his time, Burt Reynolds enjoyed the rewards of success. He bought multiple properties, invested in businesses, and lived a lifestyle that matched his fame. But not all of those investments were wise. Some failed. Some cost more than they returned. Over time, the money going out became greater than the money coming in. There is also a lesser-known part of his story that adds another layer of mystery. At one point, he invested heavily in a restaurant chain called Po Folks. It seemed like a good idea at the time. The brand was popular and the expansion looked promising. But business is unpredictable. The investment did not turn out as expected, and it became another financial setback. These are the kinds of hidden decisions that slowly, quietly drain even a large fortune. As the years went on, the financial pressure began to build. Burt Reynolds faced mounting debt. Reports suggested he owed millions at one point. This led to one of the most shocking moments of his life. He filed for bankruptcy in the 1990s. For a man who had once been one of the richest actors in Hollywood, this was hard to believe. How does someone go from earning millions to being unable to manage their finances? But the story doesn't end there. Even after bankruptcy, he tried to rebuild his career. He continued acting, taking roles in television and film. He worked hard to regain stability, and in some ways he succeeded. He even received critical praise later in his career, proving that his talent had never disappeared. But financially, things were never quite the same again. Another emotional part of his story is how he viewed his own past. In interviews, Burt Reynolds openly admitted that he made mistakes. He spoke about the roles he turned down, the money he lost, and the decisions he wished he could change. There was a sense of honesty in his words, but also regret. It's not easy for someone who once had everything to look back and see what went wrong. As he grew older, his health also became a concern. Medical issues can be expensive, even for someone who was once wealthy. Surgeries, treatments, and ongoing care all add financial pressure. This is something many people can relate to, especially older audiences. Even a strong fortune can slowly disappear under the weight of health costs and life challenges. In his final years, Burt Reynolds lived a quieter life compared to his peak fame. The luxury and excitement of his earlier years were no longer part of his daily reality. While he was still respected and remembered as a Hollywood legend, the financial side of his life had changed dramatically. The millions he once had were largely gone. When he passed away in 2018, many people reflected on his incredible career. But there was also curiosity. What was his financial situation at the end? Reports suggested that while he had stabilized somewhat, he was far from the wealthy superstar he once was. The contrast between his peak success and his later years remains one of the most surprising parts of his story. So what really went wrong? The answer is not simple. It was not just one mistake. It was a combination of many factors: career choices, personal struggles, financial decisions, failed investments, and life circumstances. Each one played a role, and together they created a slow but powerful decline. The story of Burt Reynolds is both fascinating and heartbreaking. It shows us that even the most successful people are not immune to financial loss. It reminds us that money can come and go, sometimes faster than we expect. And it reveals a deeper truth, that behind fame and fortune there are often hidden struggles that the public never sees. In the end, his life leaves us with an important lesson. Earning millions is not enough. Managing it, protecting it, and making the right decisions are just as important, because without that, even a fortune can disappear. And sometimes the biggest mystery is not how someone became rich, but how they lost it all.